A mother was shopping with her daughter in the supermarket, and the young girl began to scream, and the mother says to herself, "Sarah, calm down. It's going to be okay. You will be home soon. Everything will be all right." The daughter continues to scream louder and louder, and the next hour the entire supermarket is looking at the mother. And again the mother says, "Sarah, calm down. Soon we'll be in the car. We'll have all the packages with us. We'll be home." They now go to the third aisle. And again, the child begins to scream even louder, like a siren. The entire market is looking at her. And the mother says, "Sarah, calm down. It's going to be okay. We'll be home soon. You'll take a bath. You'll have a nap. Everything will be amazing." A woman who's looking walks over to the mother and says, "It's amazing how you deal with your young daughter, Sarah, so calm, so cool, so relaxed." And the mother responds, "Oh no, she's Rachel, I'm Sarah." I mentioned this story as an introduction because we are talking about the mitzvah of Hakhel. Once every 7 years in the Holy Temple, the king of Israel would unite all the people of Israel together. As the Torah says, "Ha'anoshim v'hanoshim v'ataf." Men, women, and children. Even infants, 1 day old, were required to come to the Holy Temple at this time. It's interesting to note that normally women are exempt from many commandments of the Torah, and children are exempt from all the commandments of the Torah. Yet when it came to this mitzvah of Hakhel, every man, woman, and child were commanded to come together to the Holy Temple. And so the king would gather all the Jewish people together on the first day of the holiday of Chal HaMoed Sukkot, the intermediate days of Sukkot, on the 8th year, which means the year following the Shemitah year. The Shemitah year was the year that one could not do any work in the fields. The year after that, everyone would come to the Holy Temple, and the king would charge them with inspiration for the next 7 years. He would read portions of the Torah from a big stage that was made out of wood in the Azara. And the miracle was that all the Jewish people, all men, women, and children, were able to fit in this very small, relatively small space. The Rambam says that the experience that everyone had was reminiscent of Sinai, of standing together at Mount Sinai and hearing God recite the 10 Commandments. And this gave them inspiration for the next 7 years and the rest of their life. What is this mitzvah of Hakhel? To understand this through 8 different points of the mitzvah of Hakhel. The first point is Hakhel es ha'am, means to gather together all the people. In other words, the first most important aspect of Hakhel was simply to gather people together, for people to unite, to be friends, to love each other, to care about each other, to know more about each other, and to unify the entire nation. It's interesting to note that the Chabad custom pertaining to the shaking of the 4 species, the esrig, the lulav, the hadas, and the rava that we do throughout Sukkot, is that when we recite the Hallel, we hold, if you're a righty, in your right hand the lulav, or a lefty, you hold it in your left hand. The lulav, which is the date palm, together with the aravis and the hadassim, the myrtles and the willow in one hand, and the etrog or the esrig or the citron in the other hand, and you put it together. Now, the Ashkenazic world generally holds all 4 of these species throughout the entire Hallel, and you shake it 4 times throughout the Hallel. The Chabad custom was to hold only the lulav with the willow and the myrtle, and only when it came to shaking it to all 6 directions would they pick up the hadas, the esrog, and unite together with the lulav. In 1987, which was the last Hakhel, the last Hakhel year when the Rebbe was alive, so the Rebbe, throughout the entire Hakhel, throughout the entire Hallel, took the four species together, from the beginning of the Hallel prayer until the end of the Hallel prayer. And on the talk, the fifth night of Sukkot, the Rebbe said the reason I did this year was because it's Hakhel. Hakhel is about gathering all the people of Israel together. And we know that the four different species of the lulav and the etrog represent four different types of Jews. And therefore, by holding it all together throughout the Hallel, we are uniting all the Jewish people together. It's also interesting to note that the four different species allude to the four letters of God's holy name, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. And in truth, each human being is made up of God's four letters. The Yud is the head, the Vav is the torso, the Hey, which is 5, are the 5 fingers, and you spell Hey, 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 so you have 5 and 5. And then you have the 5 digits on your foot, which again is the letter Hey. So you have, each person is a walking God. Each person has a godly soul in them, which makes them holy and spiritual and special. So in Hakhel, we unite everyone together. A story is told that a father and a son were living in the Ukraine. It was very cold. They were very, very poor. The son was outside all day in the field. The father was home by the fireplace. And the father began to argue with the son. We have one coat. When we go out, I want to wear the coat. The son says, well, I want to wear the coat. I'm out in the field all day. It's my coat. When you have a problem, what do? You go to the rabbi. So they go to the rabbi. Say, Rabbi, what should we do? We have one coat. My father says he wants it. I say I want it. What should we do? The rabbi listens and listens and says, To me it sounds like the coat belongs to the son, because he is outside all day working, and the father is in the house all day by the fireplace. The son has the right to the coat. Okay, they leave the rabbi's office. It's freezing cold, and the father starts shivering. And the son sees Nebuchad's father is standing there, frozen, shivering. He takes off his coat and gives it to his father. He says, Dad, you take it. He says, no, it's yours. The rabbi said it belongs to you. And he takes it back off and puts it on the son. The son takes it off, puts it back on the father. They're going back and forth. And the father says, you know what, let's go back to the rabbi. So they turn around and come back to the rabbi. They say, Rabbi, we have a problem. What's the problem now? The problem is that my son says he wants to give me the coat. And I say, no, I want to give my son the coat. What do I do? So the rabbi says, let me think about it for a moment. He puts his head down. He thinks, I have a solution. He runs upstairs, and he comes back down with a nice, big, thick fur coat. He says, this coat has been sitting in my closet for 10 years. There's an extra coat. You know what? Let's see. I think it's going to fit your son perfectly. And the son puts it on, and it fits him perfectly. He says, thank you, Rabbi. Okay, Baruch Hashem, you can go now. But the son turns to the rabbi. Rabbi, I don't understand you. We were just here a few minutes ago, and we had the same problem. And you didn't say, hold on, I'll give you my coat. Yeah. Also, now you reminded yourself you have a coat. He says, very, very simple. The first time you came, and the father said, I want the coat. The son said, I want the coat. So I said, yeah, I want to keep my coat too. Now you come, you should have the coat. You should have the coat. You changed my entire perspective. I too was aroused and inspired to share my coat with you. When Almighty God sees Hakhel, how all his children, all the men, and all the women, and all the children are united as one, God gives us additional blessing for everything that we need. The second important item is the Melech, the king. The king of Israel is the one that reads the Torah for all the Jewish people. And the question can be asked, why the king? We're in the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple generally is run by the kohanim, by the priests. Maybe the high priest should read the Torah. Furthermore, in the Holy Temple, you also had the Sanhedrin, which is the highest court, the Supreme Court of Israel, of 71 rabbis. And then you have the Av Beis Din, the head of all the Beis Din. Why doesn't he read the Torah for all of Israel? And one of the answers is that the king, the melech, has total control over the entire country. The melech, the king, is the one that rules. And the Torah is teaching us here a very important lesson, that each one of us has a king within us. Each one of us has self-control. Each one of us can make a decision. It doesn't matter what our neighbors say. It doesn't matter what our peers say. At the end of the day, when we stand before God, before we go to sleep and we look in the mirror, we have to know that we are king. And we are the ones that have to take total control and responsibility of our lives. There's a famous teaching that the word melech are the same letters as lemach, which is a joker, a clown. What's the difference? A melech is mem, lamid, chaf. Mem is moach, the mind. Lamid is leiv, the heart. Chaf is kaved, the liver. A healthy person, the mind rules over the heart, and then the liver represents action. Your action is a reflection of your thought and your emotion. A clown, however, is lemach. First, he feels. Then he thinks, how do I follow my desires? And then kaved, then he acts upon it. We are all a melech. We are all kings. The third concept of Hakhel. Anoshim, noshim, v'taf. 3, 4, and 5. We need to bring together the men, the women, and the children. In truth, every human being has within them the man, the woman, and the child. We find this in Bereshis, to talk about the portion of Bereshis. When God created Adam, the first human being, Adam was a hermaphrodite. A combination, man on one side, woman on the other side. And then God split us down the middle. That's why our backs are straight and brought us face to face. Why does God need to first create one person, then make it into two people? Well, one of the reasons is because Adam is a mensch. A mensch means a human being. For one to be human, for one to be a good person, you have to possess both male and female qualities. If the man is only masculine, nicht kein Mensch. If a woman is only feminine, also nicht kein Mensch. You need to have a perfect combination of both male and female qualities. So one idea of anoshim, one idea of the male is, the Gemara says that the nature of man is to conquer, which alludes to business, to go out into the world and to conquer the world, to transform the physical and make it into spiritual. This is through having a career, this is through doing business, etc., etc. And again, both men and women have this quality. Hakhel teaches us that anoshim, the men, needs to come into the holy temple. In other words, when you go into business, when you do a career, you have to ask yourself, how can I use my career? How can I use my talents? How can I give my God-given gifts to the world to make the world a better place? How do I make it holy? I make money. I give charity. I use my talents to inspire other people, children, by teaching, or by cooking, or by singing, or by dancing, or simply by being a lawyer. I could do so many things, but to use that talent, to ask yourself, how do I use my gifts? How do I use my blessings to make the world a holier place and a better place? Noshim, the idea of women. Says the Talmud that Yossi never called his wife, but rather my home. Why? Because he saw his wife more than a partner, but rather the foundation of his entire life. The wife is the security. She is the blessing. She brings confidence. She brings tranquility into one's life. So the idea of nashim is that in our life, our food, our sleep, our home, which perhaps could be, on one hand, very mundane, needs to be transformed into a holy temple. How do we do this? By making sure the food is kosher, making a blessing before we eat. Everything in the home should be built in accordance to holiness and godliness. by putting a mezuzah on the doorpost. Bringing holy books into the home makes your home into a holy temple. So all of us can create this miniature holy temple in the home. Who is the king of the home? The nashim, the women, the mother. Each one of us has a woman inside of us. Then we have a taf, we have a child inside of us. Number 5, what is the taf? The taf is the child that is always curious, creative, inquisitive. Never stop asking questions. Never be a child. The child represents returning to our innocence and being fearless and conquering the world. So this is the taf that is found within every single human being. The taf, that child, needs to be brought into the holy temple. And the taf, which is the child, represents Amunah Shalema, complete faith in God. The Rivash tells us, a great Kabbalist who lived in the 14th century, he says, when you pray, what should be the kavanah? What should be the meditation when you pray? And there's a famous book by the Arizal which has tremendous amount of meditations, Kabbalistically, for every part of the davening, every part of the prayer. Intense and immense amounts of Kabbalistic thought. However, the Rivash makes it very simple. He says, when I pray, Ani mispalel lidaz ze'atinik, 5 words. When I pray like a child. Why? A child prays, he's praying to his father. He doesn't know any angels, doesn't know any worlds, doesn't know any stories, intercessors. God is face to face. I need this, and I know you're going to do it for me. I believe you can do it for me. So this is the way we need to pray every day. This is the way we have to live our life. Simple, like a child. And to always ask questions, and to always grow in our knowledge. This is brought into the holy temple. This is a holy act. This is part of Hakhel. Furthermore, the Gemara asks, why should you bring a child to this gathering? There's so many people there. It's so uncomfortable. Furthermore, the king is reading in Hebrew the Torah. The child doesn't even understand what the king is talking about. So number 1, the child at that event becomes inspired. When the ambiance is a holy ambiance, for the rest of the life of that child, he will remember, when I was a child, when I was a kid, yes, I once went to the holy temple, I once heard the king. It was powerful to see so many Jews, so many people coming together. But the Gemara says another thing. It says, why should you bring the child? To give reward to the parents. Now, on a practical note, this means that the parent had to schlep the child on their back up to the holy temple. So now, in addition to receiving reward for themselves, they're now receiving reward for the extra package that they have to schlep. But spiritually, what this means is as follows. Many times we ask ourselves, why should I bring my child to the yeshiva? Why should I bring my child to the synagogue? Why do I need to get him involved in this whole thing? He'll get older, become an adult, he'll make his own decision, etc., etc. Says the Talmud, you should know. By bringing your child to these events, by bringing your child to these Hakhel gatherings, by bringing your child to the synagogue Shabbos morning and to play upstairs with the toys and to make a bracha on a candy, this will give the parents reward. You will have pride from your children. They'll grow up to be God-fearing people. They'll grow up to go in the ways of Almighty God. They will be a true pride to you and to humanity. So it's a reward to the parents for bringing in the children. Number 6. The day of Hakhel, when all the people came to the Holy Temple, the kohanim were charged with a mission to go out into the streets, to go out into the courtyards, to go out into the alleyways, and to take a chatzotzres, to take bugles and trumpets and to blow, and to tell people, Hakhel, Hakhel, up to the temple, move on to the temple, it's that direction, go on guys, Hakhel, on to the temple. And they would blow with the chatzotzres. Says the Tosefta, if there was a Kohen standing on the road, but he wasn't holding the trumpet, says the Tosefta, doime zeh she'ein koyehu. Doime zeh she'ein koyenu. They would say, it seems to me, he's not a Kohen. Because if he would be a Kohen today, he'd be blowing those trumpets. We are a nation of kohanim. We are a nation of priests. Every Jew is holy. Every Jew is a high priest. And this year is a year of Hakhel. This is a year of gathering. We need to make gatherings together. Each one of us in our buildings, each one of us in our apartments, once a month, you get your neighbors together. You put some cookies, some coffee, some ice cream, maybe a little scotch, and you bring them together. Why are we here? We're here to unite. We're here to talk about God. We're here to inspire one the other. That is the mission of this year. And each one of us is a kohen. Each one of us has to blow that bugle. And you can say, well, there's so many people out there doing that. There's so much noise. The whole Jerusalem is full of chatzaitzreis. There's too much noise for me. No. You have a personal mission. Just like you have to be in the temple, you have that personal mission to take that bugle and blow it and bring people together. Each one of us is a king. Each one of us can do it, and we need to do it. And that's the way we're going to unite the people. That's the way we're going to create a vessel for all of God's blessings. Finally, God treats us and responds according to our actions. It's called midah keneged midah. Or in America, tit for tat. Which means, by us gathering people together, this will create a spiritual impact and chain reaction that God will begin to gather all the people together. So by us gathering our friends, our neighbors, this will bring about the ultimate gathering, the ultimate Hakhel, that God will bring us together from all four corners of the world. It's interesting to note that the Talmud says that the Mashiach, the Savior of Israel, will come when? Motzoi Shvius, the year after Shemitah. The year after Shemitah, which is this year. And I was thinking a very simple thing, that why is it that the Torah designates Hakhel, this gathering of all the Jews, the year after Shemitah, the year after they didn't work? One whole year they left the entire land fallow. You would think, let them stay home and let them work the field. Now he has to call them all together. But maybe the Torah is preparing us for the ultimate Hakhel, that after the year of Shemitah, Mashiach is going to come. He's going to gather us all together into that temple. How's it going to feel when I feel and I see all my friends together? So we get a taste of Mashiach every time Hakhel comes around. Last year was Shemitah. This year is Hakhel. The entire year is Hakhel. Even though literally it took place the first day of the intermediate days of Sukkot, which was 2 weeks ago. But the entire year has this theme. In other words, this year is a year that has been designated that Mashiach can come. This is a year that we can truly have this ultimate Hakhel. But we need to begin with the Hakhel ourselves. We have to unite our man, woman, and child within us together. We have to unite our neighbors and family together. We have to unite the community together. And through this, we are sure that we will have the ultimate Hakhel. I want to conclude with one final story. There was a family in Israel, and they decided they're going to take a road trip. However, they weren't wealthy at all, so the mother packed food for the few days of the trip, and she told the children, we're only going to stop off to sightsee and to use the lavatory. We're not going to any restaurants, we're not spending any money. We're just going to go and drive and see and be together, Hakhel, with the family. Okay, so one day, they're on the trip, and the son says, I got to go to the bathroom. I got to go to the lavatory. Okay, they see a restaurant. Okay, they probably have a lavatory there. So the father tells the son, go in and ask for the lavatory. So the son goes in and walks over to one of the waitresses and says, ma'am, excuse me, is there a lavatory I can use? She looks around, sees nobody's looking. Shh, go over there. That's the lavatory. But don't tell anyone I told you. Okay, the son goes to the lavatory, he's coming out, and the father is waiting for the son already. What's taking so long? So he goes into the restaurant to see his son. He sees his son's coming back. All of a sudden, the head waiter runs out. Hey, who gave this kid permission to use the lavatory? The father sees how the waitress is like looking the other way. He realizes what's going on. He thinks for a moment, what do I do? How do I react? If I say nothing, this lady is going to lose her job. On the other hand, I wasn't planning on having any food over here. He thinks for a moment, says, waiter, excuse me, my son went to the bathroom here, but we are all coming in to eat. The whole family's coming in. Sure, we need a table for 10. Oh, a table for 10? Fantastic, that's wonderful. He sets up a table for 10, goes back outside, tells his wife, come, we're all going in. Each family member could order one thing and one drink. They all come in, they sit around the table. They ordered like the pizza or the falafel, one thing. And now the father says, please pass me the check. I want to pay for lunch. Before the check comes out, all of a sudden, he sees 10 waiters coming with cake and ice cream, and each one has a candle in it, and they sing happy birthday, and they're bringing it to the table. He says, excuse me, we don't have a birthday here. We didn't ask for dessert. No, we only ordered one thing each. He says, no. This is for this table. And everyone gets a piece of delicious cake and ice cream and a candle, and they're starting to eat. And the father says, what's going on over here? So the waitress came over to the table and said, look, what happened was that when you came in and you saw me on the side, all nervous, I could have lost my job. And I know you weren't planning on eating here. So you came in and you saved me by inviting the entire family to eat. And I went into the kitchen, I started to cry. And my friends were asking, why are you crying? And I told them the whole story. They all started crying too. And we said, we got to do something for this family. So we decided, as the waiters, that we are going to, on our own bill, give you dessert for the entire family because you saved my job. Okay, the man felt, very, very happy. And he said, okay, so now give me the check. And now the owner of the restaurant walks over to him and gives him the bill. It says, next time you're here, 50% off. He says, okay, very nice, but what owe you for today? And the owner of the restaurant says, you owe me nothing. He says, what? Why not? He says, we only charge people. We don't charge angels. You are not people. You guys are angels. This is the meaning of Hakhel. Hakhel is we do for one another, and even though it hurts sometimes, and even though we're worried, how am I going to cover the bill? How am I going to do this? I have to care about myself. I live alone. It's my reputation, my personality, my money, my dignity. Comes along Hakhel and says we all squeeze in together into the Beis Hamikdash. We rub shoulders. It's not so bakvemt. It's not so comfortable. But you know that? By doing so, we are creating a vessel for all of God's blessings, materially and spiritually, for a beautiful year, for the next 7 years, to the next Hakhel, and to bless everybody, like we find in the Parsha of Noach, that all the animals of the world were together in one little ship, one little boat, one little ark for one entire year. And nobody harmed each other. The carnivores behaved themselves, and the herbivores ate herbs, and everybody was in peace. And that is a taste of how it will be when Mashiach will come. The ultimate Hakhel, when the entire world, all humans, all nations of the world, with all the animals of the world, will live in peace and harmony with the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days. Amen.